Alright, guys, so my name is Syed Hassan, and I'm in the Teaching Drama to Children class of the year 2016. I'm not exactly sure who's going to be watching this, if it's other students or if it's just Sharon, but this is basically my free choice for my portfolio. Yeah, without further ado, here I go. So, throughout this course, I have learned a lot of new concepts, a lot of new games, and I've met a lot of new people, and I've also learned a lot of new techniques and styles of teaching which I wasn't aware of before. But what I will be covering is basically just a recap or overview of the three concepts teaching, drama, and children. With teaching, there are many different kinds of teachers and different styles of teaching, but in today's society, they are typically categorized into two categories: a good teacher and a bad teacher. In one of our classes, we did an activity where we listed all the attributes that made up a good teacher and a bad teacher. And what we realized is that subconsciously, a majority of the attributes were from the affective domain, which has to do with the attitude. So, in order to be a good teacher, you don't have to be an expert in your topics that you're teaching, but you have to be able to connect with your students on a personal level and make them feel happy and make your lesson fun and interesting. And if you can do that, you're ultimately set. And speaking of domains, it comes from Bloom's taxonomy. There are three domains that you should always focus on: the cognitive or the knowledge domain, which looks at knowing the basics of using knowledge and comprehension. For example, if you're playing the game Simon Says that everybody knows, you need to know how to play the game, but also the parts of the body, which you might want to go over in class with your students. There's also the psychomotor or skills domain, which allows the children to use their gross motor and fine motor skills, which can also include developing a child's five senses: taste, smell, hear, touch, and feel. For example, using an invisible rope in the game of tug of war would allow the child to use their gross motor skills and use their senses of touch to pretend and imagine the rope. And the last domain is the affective or attitude domain, which looks at the emotional or attitude of a child. For example, students will use their affective domain when they are listening to instructions about a particular activity, and you are able to see who is listening and who isn't by the body language and how well they complete their task. When planning lessons, use Bloom's taxonomy to create the objective and also for grading students by using a rubric. Lastly, there are so many different kinds of teaching styles. The best thing to do is to find what suits you and what works well with your students, and use that. It makes teaching not only successful and rewarding, but you'll also see the positive impact you have on your students and their learning. So next is drama. To me, drama is a form of art. It is a way to express oneself by freeing the mind from everything else around them and putting yourself into this zone to just act or to play. In this course, we did two drama activities. We taught a lesson, which was our game, and we have to present our story theater presentation, but in two different drama techniques. The games were rehearsed and were practiced, so we were able to rehearse what we were going to do and say. But the story theater presentations were improvised, which means you don't rehearse your lines. You always say yes and go along with whatever it is that's going on. The only thing we really practiced was our actions, which is pretty interesting and I found really cool because it is something I haven't really done before. Children would love doing these drama activities because it's just so free and there's no right or wrong thing to do, which is great because children love to express themselves in any kinds of form. It also allows children who may be seen as different to be included in an activity where everyone is just free to have fun. Some children may have a hard time though with drama because there are a few children in each classroom who may be shy and may have a hard time expressing themselves, but ensuring them to be free and always trying to help them in expressing themselves and become good actors. Lastly is the children aspect. Children are very special people, and we should all know this because we were all children at one point in time. And they all have different characteristics, which makes them unique and special. Things that I have learned with children is that you can't keep topics or lessons too long depending on their age range. For example, for younger children, their attention span is only about 5 minutes, so that's all the time you have to speak with them. If you keep on rambling, they will get bored and fidgety, which leads to them being unfocused. Also, all children learn differently. Some learn with visuals, some are kinesthetic, and some are auditory learners. I know this because I'm a kinesthetic learner, so I typically teach kinesthetically by using hands-on activities. Also, when making lesson plans, make sure that they are age appropriate. Ask yourself, what makes them appropriate? What challenges will there be? Why older or younger kids won't understand the lesson? And how you will teach as a teacher and to know that they understood the lesson. One major thing I learned was the 3 Ds: no drunkenness, no deaths, and no drugs, which I never really thought of because those are all things people look for when they go to watch a movie or to a play. But I understand why it shouldn't be used for children, as it is inappropriate and makes them emotional. Ideally, you want to try to connect with each child individually to see what his or her needs are, but try to do something that suits everyone. Overall, this class was a great experience and really taught me a lot of new concepts, techniques, and ideas that I can use in my own career, as I will also be teaching people, but I'll be teaching them how to exercise or on health aspects. I probably should have mentioned this earlier, but I'm a kinesiology student. But the techniques are merely transferable. I would advise all my friends to take this class. Also, because it isn't like other classes that are heavy on theory, and that's what I really like most. You learn from others and you learn kinesthetically, which is the way that I learn. I also got to meet a lot of new people and work with them. I got to teach a class and really expand on my comfort zone. And for that, I would really like to thank Sharon Reed and for all she has done for me and doing such a great job with this course. And that is my free choice. Okay, bye.